Okay, welcome to this little video. We're just showing you how to remove a movement from a Fusee dial clock. Other dial clocks are probably similar, but this is intended for Fusee dial clocks. Lay the clock on its back, lift the bezel. Sometimes a bit tricky to do when it's lying down, trying to get your thumb under there, but just lift the bezel and make sure the hinge doesn't take too much strain. The tools we're going to need are a normal pair of square nose pliers and in this case a smallish screwdriver. You don't always need this. And then some form, ideally, some form of pincers like this. They can be quite big ones, these are small, but something to just help grab you the pins in a minute. So we start, if you can see, there's a small taper pin that's holding the hands on. We've got a taper pin, and we've got this brass collet, and we've got the minute hand and then the hour hand. We first need to take this pin out. You need to be careful, you're using metal things near the dial, so take your time and be careful. This pin is fat at this end and thin at this end. If I've done your clock, then it will be a taper pin like this, so take a moment to work out which is the thick end and which is the thin end, because what we're going to do is going to put this end of the pliers on the thin end of the pin like that, and then we're going to bring the other face of the pliers onto the far side of the steel arbor. So the arbor is the axle that runs through the clock, and it's the piece through which the pin goes through. So we're going to squeeze from here, the outside, to here and push the pin out. So I say be careful, just make sure you don't slip. Just like that, and just squeeze. You can see the pin coming out, and push it as far as you can. You won't get it all the way out with your pliers. Once it's nearly out, if you press down on the brass collet, you can probably remove it with your finger. You may need pliers, but you can probably remove it with your finger. So if you lift the minute hand up, the collet will come with it. Set that aside carefully so you don't lose it. And then we've got the hour hand. And if you can see on this one, it's got a small screw holding it to the mechanism, and we have to remove that. There's two other ways of doing it. One's very rare, which I won't mention, but at the end of the video I'll show you the other second common way. This one's got a screw, so we just place a small screwdriver on there, hold the hand, and just turn the screw anti-clockwise to undo it. It may not lift all the way out, so if you just lift the hand, the screw should come out. And in my opinion, best practice is pop the screw back in straight away so you don't lose it. If it goes back in, you know where it is. You'll have to take it out again when you fit the hand, but I'll just pop that back in. Okay, right, so that's the hands removed. Close the bezel, and your movement will be held, so the front of the clock will be held to the back box with pegs, various pegs, there's usually 4. If you just remove those, you should be able to lift it clear. Set the box to one side, being careful not to put the movement down. Turn it over carefully onto its face. Being careful, make sure there's nothing underneath that would damage the glass. Okay, what we need to do now is to locate these pins. Hopefully you can still see well. This movement is held, so you've got the dial plate here, you've got 3, sometimes 4 dial feet, which are these items here, that come from the dial and pass up through the movement, and again they're held on with taper pins, and these are a little bit more substantial pins. And the correct way to remove them is to take your pointy pliers, and if I've cut your pins, usually I leave them, if possible, I leave them slightly proud, which allows you to grip them with your pin and use the outside of the movement plate as a bit of a lever. So you just grip them and pull them out like that. They may put up a bit more of a fight than that one did. Here's a nice one, hopefully you can see. So just place the pliers on, squeeze, and then lever off the movement plate. You may have to get a pair of pliers like this and grip them and wiggle them and pull them out. But if you can, if you just use the side of the movement as a lever to pull them out, that's the best way. This movement's got 4 pins, so I'll just take all 4 out like that. And then once you've done that, you can lift the movement clear like that. Lift the movement clear. There's a chance that this component, part of the motion work, will try and fall off. It shouldn't. This piece just usually holds it. So just be aware of that and just keep your finger on there. And that's the movement removed. This one being having one with the screw fitting. I'll just show you the other way. Just clear a space. This is the movement with the other type of fitting. You can see it still has the pin passing through. So I know this is the thin end, this is the thick end. So I'm going to put my pliers here on the steel arbor and there and squeeze. Obviously this movement's not behind a dial, but if you imagine the dial's in place you wouldn't be able to see this. Squeeze, lift the pin out, lift the minute hand forward. The brass collet should come with it. It may be a little bit stiff like that one was. And you can see this one hopefully hasn't got any screws holding the hand into place. This is usually a sign of a later clock, not always. This is about a 1930 Elliott. So on this case, all you have to do, again remembering that the dial would be where my fingers are, put your fingers around and just be brave, just wiggle that off. It's just a friction fit. It feels a bit counterintuitive to do, but you'll see on the back it's just a brass bush that fits over this part of the motion work here. It's got little splits in that give it some tension. So that one just pulls off like that. And that's how you take your movement out. Obviously you might need to do something else now, but you look for other videos that tell you how to do that.